Hey Bruno,
Hey, hello, Ole. How are you doing, man?
good, good. It's been a long day with a lot of like sessions and talks, and right now will be also pretty interesting talk because for everyone who want to understand how to move forward in their career, and of course when someone reach this milestone, okay, I'm senior. What's next? No one knows what's next, but I think it's not the final destination. There are many interesting stuff after that,
Oh,
and of
yes.
course we
After,
can avoid management as well. Yeah.
yeah, that's right. After the life becomes after senior. How about that?
Whoa, that should be a title of this talk.
Yes.
Yeah.
You know, that's great, man. So thanks for the invite for here and congratulations for the event. That's amazing. I know you had a long day. My day's just starting, but uh, I'm so happy to be here with you guys. I love to be here. Uh, that's the way for me to be virtually with you guys in Ukraine. I'm every time that I went there, it was an amazing place, some amazing friends. So thanks so much for the opportunity to be here with you, all of you.
Yeah, it's also pleasure for us to have you as a speaker today in our event, and as everyone who participating right now and watching, looking forward for your talk. Yeah.
That's very good. Very, very good. Awesome. So, Frank says you have a great microphone. So hopefully microphone is good. Awesome. You have a great microphone too, right? So I don't know who he's talking about actually.
Yeah. So please, you can go ahead. Yeah, and
Yes,
present.
it's good. All right. So, towards the end, I want to give a gift for everyone. I might need to put to share my screen, but for now, it's all good. Okay. I'll ask you guys. And I see here, Frankie. So, hey, Frankie, how you doing? Andre is right there too. So, how Andre, how you doing? Mike. Lots of people here from the other speakers. So, if you can hear me, if you can see me, say hello in the chat, right? So I can have a conversation because just make sure that everything is good. Hey, hi, Mr. Mike. That's good. So, hi, Ihor. That's good. Awesome. Lots of people there. Hey, Olia. That's good. Awesome.
Around
I
here,
know I'm butchering your names, right? I'm saying the wrongest way possible. So bear with me here. So do you want to say anything? Andre's here. Hey, Andre, how you doing, man? Awesome. Max is Stanislav. Hello. Okay. Hello, Bruno. We are good. You have a nice spirit. Awesome. Okay,
yeah.
good. So let's
I
let's
think
let's rock and roll.
you shared your positive energy with everyone right now, despite that this is an evening for us, but everyone curious to hear something from you.
Yes. That's good. Perfect. Frank, your pronunciation fantastic. Okay, Frankie, thanks a lot, man. Right, Ola, should I start?
Yeah.
Let's
Yeah.
go.
Please. Let's go.
All right. So Andre's here on the chat and I'll send him a message on WhatsApp. So Andre, right? Thanks. Actually, let me talk about Andre a little bit, right? So Andre, I was in Strasbourg the other day, like about a month ago. And that was the first time I've been to France several times, but that was the first time I actually gave talks at user groups in France. I was very, very happy about that. And then I come to Strasbourg and, never been there, didn't know the city, and first time. And then who I see and I meet in Strasbourg, Andre, right? So, hey, Andre, so good to see you there. And he did an awesome tour. He took me at night to walk around the cities. And, I just had one day there. So Andre made that day amazing because it was great conversation, the user group. But then he took me to see the city and to see the cathedral and these beautiful buildings at night. So Andre, thanks a lot, man. You made my trip to France amazing, right? So awesome. Thanks so much. Okay. So let's get started with this. So let me just make sure that my camera is not following me too much here, right? So I can get you guys, so I can use the board a little bit, right? How about this? Yes, so, okay, yes, how about this? Okay, cool. So then we have the board for us. Okay, guys, so let me, hopefully you can see this well. I'm just gonna go straight to everything. Before I start, right, I want you to know what's your situation right now. Are you a senior developer already? Let me know in the chat if you're a senior developer, and tell me how many years of career do you have, right? Total years of career, not, oh yes, I started programming 2 years ago. No, I want to whole time of career, because seniority is not about how long you've been programming. Seniority is about your whole career, right? That's what seniority is about. So tell me, are you a senior developer? How long have you been in your career? Hey, Samuel, so good, right? So Frankie says 14 years. Oh, last 7 years. Awesome. That's amazing. Yeah. So makes developer 7 years. That's awesome. Okay. So lots of senior developers here, right? That's amazing. Samuel it has a longer career, I think, right? Mr. Mike, 4 years. That's great, Mr. Mike. Do you consider yourself a senior developer? Do you have a position senior developer, or do you have a position mid-level developer? Let me know, guys. 19 years, says Ihor. Awesome. That's amazing, man. Look, let me tell you this, Ihor. With 19 years in your career, you can do anything you want, right? When you get to like Frankie, 14 years, Ihor, 19 years, especially after 10, but even more especially after 15, 20 years of career, guys, you are in such an amazing position, right? You can do anything you want. Victor's 23. Awesome, Victor. That's amazing. So 1500, that's great. So if you guys are having, especially guys that have, 14, 15 and over, if you're having any problem that we cannot solve here today, you send me a message and say, hey, Bruno, I have a problem, because you guys, after 10, 15 years of career, especially after 20, you can do anything you want. Seriously, right? So if you're not able to do what you want, ping me, right? And let's do it, right? From Java 2, says Victor. Man, that's amazing, right? That's awesome. Yes, Java 2 came out in 1998, right? So that's a long time, Victor. That's amazing, man. Okay. All right. 24 years, says Oleg. Okay. Yeah, starting C++. That's amazing. All right. So you all here. Let me see how far I can write. I'll just write senior right here, because we're not going to need. Okay, so senior, right? So life after senior, right? 16 years in customer service and specializing in Java. Amazing, Samuel. Again, it's for you too, Samuel. I already told you this, because Samuel is here in Brazil. I've met him in person, right? So I already told you this, Samuel. You can do anything you want, man, with 16 years of career. That's amazing. You start off fantastic. Already looks promising. Okay, Java organization should be paying you. You haven't even started your talk, and it's already one of the best. Okay, thanks, Frankie. Thanks for all the speakers before me, right? Also, okay. So, guys, once you get to senior, that's an amazing moment, right? As a senior developer, you have a lot of autonomy. You can do lots of things. You work in interesting technologies. You work in interesting things, and here's what we want, right? We want to go beyond that, but you don't have to. You don't have to go beyond senior if you don't want to. Senior developer is a great position, right? Or senior technical. It doesn't need to be developer, right? Senior technical person, it's a great position. You have interesting challenges. You have interesting things to do. You can make good money. You can work internationally for projects. You can work for lots of companies. It's a great position to be, right? I was talking to a German developer some months ago, and he told me that he became a senior developer in Java 1.2. So he has been a senior developer for over 20 years, right? And he still like to be a senior developer, and he doesn't want to go any further. That's okay. So that's fair. I understand that. But for those that want to go further, you want to do something else, right? You want to have more impact. You want to have more results, right? You want to be able to make more decisions, right? So that impact is the word, right? So if you want to have more impact, right? Everything beyond senior is more impact, right? Is more impact in your company, more impact in your in your city, more impact in your country, more impact in the world, right? So anything beyond senior, that's what we're looking for, more impact. So if you want to do that, here are the 5 paths. I'm gonna try to go fast on the path, but if I say anything that's not clear, I want you to ask questions immediately. Don't wait to the ends. I want you to write questions in the chat, as many questions as you can, so I can answer everything, right? So start asking questions right now so we can answer all your questions, right? Okay, so here are the 5 paths that I can see to grow beyond senior. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, right? Yeah, you can see this. Okay, cool. So 5 paths to go beyond senior. The first one is what I call the people path, right? The people path is the one I'm going to go very fast here because that's the one that many developers don't want, right? So this is the manager path, right? You become a manager, you become a director, right? You become a vice president, okay? Oh, that's a little bit too much, right? So yes, that's the limit on my board right there. Okay, cool, right? So the people path, you become manager, director, VP. That is the path that I think is the easiest path. All of those paths are very hard to do, okay? Very hard. Why? Because they require new skills. They require new way of thinking. They require, new responsibilities, right? So they're all very hard. But I think the manager path is the easiest one, not because it's easy, but because companies want you to do that. So they're going to push you towards it. If you don't do anything, they'll push you towards management, right? Many developers get to manage them not because they want, but because their companies push them. They offer money, they offer training, they tell you that's the only way for you to grow, right? That's not true. It's not the only way for you to grow, but they'll tell you this, and so you believe, and then you become a manager, right? So if you want to do, that's a great one. It has lots of impacts, but I know that many developers don't want that, so I'm not going to stand too much on this. But the manager path is one where you have reports, right? There are people under you. So managers manage seniors and other people, right? Directors manage managers, VPs manage directors, right? So that's the management path, is the people path. Okay, so who here wants to be on the manager path? Let me know. Let me know in the chat who wants to be on a manager path. All right. Now, lots of people want to tell me, Bruno, I want to grow beyond, I don't want to grow beyond senior because I want to continue to be technical. So my company tells me the only way for me to do is to be a manager, right? Nope, says right? No, you don't want it. Okay, so let's go to the next path then, right? So I want to continue to be a technical person. I want to grow inside my company, right? And I want to do this as a technical person, right? So that is the path that I call the technical path, right? This path exists for a long time, but usually only on companies there are very technical companies, right? The technical path, when I worked for Sun in 1995, right? There were already people in the technical path, right? So it exists for a long time, but the name of this path was just kind of standardized very recently in a book that came out during the pandemic, right? And so they call this the staff plus path. The staff plus path. Why staff plus? Because it's staff plus principal plus distinguish. Okay, distinguish, right? So those are positions, real positions, right? Oh man, I'm actually, let me move the camera a little bit more so I can get more real estate on the board. All right. Okay, good. Okay. All right. So, so staff plus means the staff plus principal plus distinguish. So those are positions, right? Those are positions that you can take in your company, right? So you can be promoted to staff position, can promote it to principal position. So today we see a lot more of those guys, right? So there's lots of people that call this their staff today in their companies. Lots of people that are principal. because it has been more common even in non-technical companies, right? Many people that have lots of technical people in their companies already have those paths. Many companies don't have that yet because they don't understand that path. And so if you want to get on this path, you might need to be very independent and kind of push your company to go on here, right? This is not an easy path, guys. It's a very hard path. Let me tell an example of a real example of a mentee of mine just telling me this other day. In his company, they have about 3,000 technical people, right? 3,000 people in the development path, right? 3,000 developers, let's say. Okay, so 3,000 developers in his company. All right, and then they have in his company from 3,000 developers, they have 120 staff developers, right? And they have around 13 or 14, let's say 14 principals and 3 distinguished. Okay, so if you take a look here, that is less than 5% of the whole technical team, right? Very hard path to go, because it's again, it's similar as management. It's not an easy path, very hard path, right? So because there's not a lot of them, but you can do it. Okay, if you want to be a technical person, you will continue to be a technical person. You can do this by going to the technical path, right? Now, here's the thing. Is there anyone here already at the staff or want to be a staff plus? Let me know in the chat, right? So here's the thing. People that think that I'm going to continue to be a technical, like I'm a senior, and I'm going to become a staff just because that's my next level, that's not how it happens, okay? Because a staff is not a better senior, okay? A staff is not just a better senior. A staff is a senior that grew beyond senior. Make sense? You have to be beyond senior, more impact, okay? You have to have more impact in your company. It's not just, oh, yes, I'm just going to continue to do my code here, and that's enough. No, that's not enough. You have to have more impact. We're going to talk a little bit more about that in a minute. Okay? So that's the second path. So who wants to be on this path? Come on. Where's everyone in the chat? Do you guys disappear? Let me know. I want you to answer if you want or don't want, right? I'm not asking who wants. I'm asking, do you want? Tell me yes or no. I want to be in the staff plus position, right? Let me know. Okay. That's the second path. The third path is like a separation. Frank says no. All right. Doesn't want to do that. Okay, Frank. Let me know why, man. Maybe, why not, right, Victor? Good. Okay, Victor. So Frank, tell me why not this one, right? So anyway, the third path is one that I think it's like a separation. In the path, I would call this one the technical path too, right? But now I separate this because I think it makes sense. I call this the community path. So the community path is one where you become a technical person in a non-technical area of your company. Okay? So that means you're a technical person working with marketing. You're a technical person working with HR. You're a technical person working with sales, right? So that is the community path, right? So here are things like evangelist, community manager, or DevRel, developer relations, right? And similar things like this. Those are paths where that's a very good path, by the way, guys. Very interesting. Why? Because you become the only technical person or one of the few technical person in a non-technical area of the company. That means that this is a path with lots of autonomy. Oh, by the way, those two paths here, lots of autonomy, okay? I mean, everything here, right? Autonomy is the name of the game here, right? But when you staff, principal, distinguished, I forgot to say this. That's important. So before I talk the community path, staff, principal, and distinguished, they are equivalent to manager, director, VP. Okay, so staff is equivalent to manager, a principal is equivalent to director, a distinguished is equivalent to a VP. It has the same level of responsibility, similar level of salaries, right? But those guys here don't have anyone under them. Make sense? So let's give an example. James Gosling. When I worked at Sun, James Gosling was a distinguished engineer at Sun. Sun did not have this name, distinguished. Sun called Sun Fellow. The Sun Fellow was a VP level at Sun. So James Gosling had no boss and he had no one under him, right? He went on to work for Google, to work for Amazon, and so he was always a distinguished engineer in those companies. So he was always at VP level. Okay, that makes sense? But as VP level, but he didn't have anyone under him. Okay, so Frank says the staff. Frank says the staff level operates more in the gray area. You expect to drive initiatives without clear authority. Success becomes less about technical skills and more about influence communication. Yes, all of those paths here become that, right, Frankie? That's the whole thing we're talking about here, right? Beyond senior, all of these becomes, success becomes more you driving what you need to do, you driving what needs to be done, right? Now, the interesting thing is that you say doubt authority. That's what happens when you become you're senior and you don't get promoted to those positions. Then you have no official authority, right? You just become a senior. That's one of the reasons why you need to grow beyond senior. Many people do a staff-like work or a principal-like work by being a senior. But what's the problem with that? The problem is that in the end, you cannot sit on the table. Directors and managers and VPs don't see you as their level, right? Because you're not at their level, because you're still a senior developer. So that's why you have no clear authority. But if you actually grow into those positions, you do have the authority, right? You don't have the power of a boss. That's very important, Frank. You're totally right. You don't have the power of a boss. So you cannot tell people anything because you're not their boss. You are their leader. There's a big difference between being a boss and being a leader. And a leader influences, doesn't tell what to do. A boss is someone that can fire you, right? And so a boss can tell you, do this, right? A leader cannot, right? So it's hard, man. You're totally right, Frankie. Some companies create staff roles without giving them actual scope or support, right? You get the title, but not the mandate, budget. I'm going to talk a little bit more about that. Save that comment right there, Frankie, because I'm going to talk more about that in a minute, right? The whole idea about power, right, is that power is not what you have. You have influence and not power. Power is the power to tell people something to do, and that's what you don't have. For you to have power, you have to be on the people path. You have to be on a manager. You have to be a boss, right? And many of you don't want to be a boss. Being a boss is a good thing, right? If you want power, Frankie, then you go to the people path because that will give you power, right? So on that path here, you have influence and not power. What can be very well used, right? Okay. So, but that's good reasons, Frankie, why you don't want to do this, right? Can you talk more about creating more influence? I'll save this. I'll do this because all of those paths here requires more influence. I'll talk more about this, Bruno, in a minute, right? Okay, so then you see now the community path. It's similar to the staff position, same problems that Frank is talking about here, right? Because you have to be very independent. You have to be, to do things by yourself, right? You many times you don't have the support. You don't have any of that. Same thing, right? But those positions here are very visible position, right? Lots of visibility. because usually those positions are outward facing. Some very big companies have internal community managers or internal DevRels, internal evangelists, but usually those positions are outward facing. It's outside of the company. So that gives you a lot of visibility. And with visibility, you have more influence. Okay? So those positions require that kind of thing, right? But those are very autonomous positions, right? All of those positions here are very autonomous. Autonomy, it's very important, right? So this thing that Frank is talking about, right? That's a problem, but it's also a solution. When you have more autonomy, you can do more things because you do what needs to be done, right? Because you do what you think needs to be done, right? So that's autonomy is very important. We're going to talk more about that in a minute, right? Okay, so that's a community path. Many people enjoy a lot this path here. Then what's the next path? So these three paths here, path 1, 2, and 3, right? Those are company path. Company, right? You work this inside your company. It's an official position inside your company, right? You get promoted. You get you have to work with the company policy. You have to work with HR many times to actually get those positions, right? So those positions are inside your company. The last two positions, last two paths are more independent, right? And they can work in parallel, okay? So because they don't require your company to do anything because it's outside of your company, right? So one is what I call the independent path. Independence. I don't know how to write. Okay, independent path. So the independent path is when you sell yourself. You become the product, let's say, right? Things like consultant, instructor, freelancer. Make sense? So that's a path where you basically, lots of those paths here, you sell hours. Oops. Okay. You sell hours, right? Why? Because you sell yourself. Okay. That's a great path to be. Lots of money, right? Lots of influence, lots of flexibility. You can do a lot of things, but requires a different mindset, right? Because now you have to go after your jobs. You have to go after things. And that's go for it. Okay. My personal opinion is don't chase titles, right? Chase the kind of work that energize you. And if your company make a staff power level to create a staff power level to create systemic improvements and you're excited by that challenge, go for it. If it's just politics, slide decks and no code, stay senior and stay sharp. All right. So Frankie, that's a good point, right? But, again, you can do those things. Same thing that you're saying here, right? You can go code, you can do those things by being, we're going to talk more about autonomy here in a minute, right? So I think that's going to be important. Okay. So that's the independent path. Your consultant, something like this. I'm gonna raise this here because otherwise it's not going to be fit on the screen. Well, actually, what I can do, let me remove the zoom a little bit here. Maybe I can. Yeah. Okay, that works. Okay, good, awesome. Okay, so then the last path, right, is what I call the entrepreneur path. Right, the entrepreneur path is when you build a product, right? So it can be you can be like a solo entrepreneur, for example, right? You can be maybe a CTO of a startup, maybe it can be like a seed investor, of a startup because you invest in your time, for example, right? Or something like this where you're involved in building a product, right? So you're like the owner of the company somehow, right? You have shares, like good shares of the company or something like this, where you make decisions on building the product of the company, right? So those are the 5 paths that I see here. The last 2 here, independent entrepreneur, you can do in parallel. Many people are, a manager or a principal or a senior developer, and they are a consultant for other companies, or they are entrepreneur by having their own business, right? So, with those 5 paths here, I think you should consider. Now, what is, let's go talk about the questions here, because I think those are important, right? So come on, more questions, guys, so I can answer your questions. Now, what is the most important thing for all of those paths? There's 2 things, right? All of those paths is more impact, okay? More responsibility, right? And more, I'm going to write here in the bottom because that's probably the most important. Well, I'm going to write here. And more autonomy. Okay? So that is the important thing, guys, that you have to think about. Those paths require, for you to think about the impact, responsibility, and autonomy. Now, when I mention responsibility for developers, there's one thing that's very normal, is that developers tell me, Bruno, I don't want to do more work, right? Responsibility does not necessarily mean more work, okay? Responsibility, is that it's more impact, right? So what you do has a high responsibility. So, for example, you can be a senior and you're responsible for your code, but as staff, you might be responsible for other things that people are doing, right? A principal, you're probably going to be responsible for multiple projects, right? A distinguished, you're going to be responsible for everything that happens in the company. So that does not necessarily mean more work, okay? But so one thing about autonomy that I think is very interesting. Autonomy is the ability of you doing what needs to be done, or what you think needs to be done. Autonomy is the ability to decide what to do. So several things here that you talk about, right? You end up draining, under-supported, right? I don't want to have meetings all day. All of those things depends on your autonomy, right? Because if you have autonomy and you don't want to do meetings all day, you don't do meetings all day, right? But if you don't have autonomy and you have to be on meetings all day, is because it's because someone else is telling you what to do. So when you grow beyond senior, the main thing you have to look for, the main thing that you're striving for, is more autonomy, right? For example, talk about James Gosling again. James Gosling was a VP, right? A distinguished engineer at Sun, at Oracle, at Google, at Amazon, right? James Gosling decided what he would do, right? And so because he decided what he would do, he could spend a lot of his time doing technical things, because those are the things that he thought was important, right? Now, if you do and you get your autonomy and you do something that's not worth for the company, it's not valid for the company, then you're going to lose your autonomy, right? Because autonomy has to do with responsibility, has to do with doing what needs to be done, has to be with impact, right? So if you're doing something in your company that doesn't have the impact that your position requires, then probably you're not using your autonomy the right way. Okay? So now I want to go, I don't know how long, I forgot how long I have here. I think you should have 10 more minutes, right? So if someone can let me know here in the private chat or something how much more time I have, right? It would be great. But I want to go ahead and answer all these questions here. And come on, ask more questions, guys, because those questions are awesome, right? It's all amazing questions here. So let's talk a little bit about things here, because I should have lots of times, Andre. Okay, thank you. Good. So yeah, so we can talk about all kinds of things then, right? So yes, guys. So send me more questions, because we have lots of time. That's great. All right. So let me just agree with Frankie here for a minute, right? So I agree. Don't chase titles. That's very important. Chase autonomy. Chase impact, right? Because once you get to, for example, entrepreneur path or the independent path, there's no titles here, right? There's no titles. If you're instructor, for example, you could be instructor forever, your whole life. There's no titles here. But those paths here are the ones with the most autonomy, the most impact, right? Those paths are huge impact, huge autonomy, and lots of money, right? So there's nothing to do with titles. Okay, totally agree with you, Frankie, there. Now let's talk about here some of the things here, right? Oh, before I go to the other questions, just Victor questions, very specific. I like that, right? What do you think about team leads? It should be an official or unofficial position. So team leads, Victor, it's on the technical path, right? It's actually many companies, Victor, use team leads as an in-between people and technical, right? People call them your team leads so you can manage people without having the power to manage them. It's a way for it to get you, no, don't worry. You are on your path to become a manager, but you can learn how to manage them by being a team lead. That's thinking of a lot of companies, right? But a team leads or a technical lead, right? That's some companies like to call it technical leads. It's a technical path, but it could be a staff, could be a principal, or could be distinguished. It's more like a role than a position. Okay, so you are staff team leads, a principal team lead, or a distinguished team lead. So those here are more like positions, and team lead is more like a role. It's like architect. Architect is more like a role also. It can be a staff architect, a principal architect, a distinguished architect. Make sense? So it is official, right? It could be totally official because people tell, you are the team lead officially, but usually you are like a principal team lead, for example. Okay? And so, yes. Now, the problem with the team leads is that, many times you do the work as a manager, but many times it doubt the power of a manager because you don't have the power to fire anyone. So if you cannot fire me, but you can tell me what to do, there's a mismatch there, right? Because that's why a team leader is a leader and not a manager. You influence people instead of telling them what to do, right? You don't have power. You have influence. So that's a very, very different thing, guys. Once you are on those four paths in the bottom here, you don't have power. You have influence, right? Let's think about the independent path, for example. You work with a customer, so you have zero power on the customer. You can't just tell the customer what to do, right? You're not their manager. You're not their boss. You can't do anything with them. It's the contrary. They can fire you, right? Because you're the consultant, for example. So you don't have power. You have influence, right? You can inspire people. You can impact people, but you don't have power, right? Same thing here. If you're an entrepreneur, you have a product, you have no power over your customer. You can't tell your customer what to do, right? You can only influence them. Make sense? So that's the same thing here. You have no, for the technical, the community path, you have no power. Now, on the manager path, on the people path, yes, you have power because you can fire someone, right? So if you can fire someone, then you're a boss and not a leader. Make sense? So that if you're looking for power, that's the people path. And it's not a bad path, guys. It's actually a very good path. Many people do very, very well. And contrary to what most people think, you can be a manager, a director, a VP, and it still codes. That's one thing that people don't realize is that, because I'm a manager, I'm not going to code anymore. You have autonomy. If that's what you want to do code, you can do codes. There's lots and lots of VPs out there that they are very technical encoders, right? So if you want to do that, you can, right? It's up to you. Now, what you have to do is that you have to do this in a way that's responsible, right? So for example, if you are a VP and your job is to actually move the company forward, for example, don't go code what goes to production, right? Because if you code something that goes to production and it's something happens with your code, then you have to go and fix it, right? Because you wrote that. So go do some technical thing that doesn't go to production. You know, go do, you know, a proof of concept, for example. Go do the next version of your software. Go do, you know, a tool that people are going to use, right? Go do something that's technical, that's interesting, that's powerful, that impacts the company. But that is not the production code that needs to be supported because you cannot support it. Make sense? So yes, you can totally go be technical, even on the management path, if you want, right? You know, I had many of my bosses, they were managers and they were still coding, they're still writing code, and sometimes a lot more than you think they would do, right? Okay, so Andre says, what about changing the dev stack, right? I'm going to go back to some of the questions. So I'm just going to go in the next one here, right? What about changing the dev stack language or moving to AI, for example, right? And restart your journey of a dev career. Restarting, tell me what does mean, Andre? I don't believe in restarting. I don't believe in restarting. I believe just moving forward. Everything you did until here, Andre, it's valid. It doesn't matter what you're going to do next, right? You know, you change language, you're going to do AI, you're going to do, those are tools you're going to learn. Everything you work so far, it's still valid. You know, I help people that are not technical, you know, and I still help them, you know, come in and do things, right? Okay, so yeah, it's not a problem at all, right? You know, I don't believe in being in restarting the career, right? You just moving forward, okay? All right, so you know, maybe I'm running out of time here, so let me go back in some of the questions here. So Frank says, Chris, you hear a take. Would you rather stay a senior engineer, work on 2 full-time projects with full technical focus, but only use 8 hours a day, or be a staff engineer, right? Leading initiative, drive impact, and sitting through endless meetings, but earning half the salary of the senior role. So Frankie, so it's, you know, if you're on this thing, if you're in that situation, you know, message me and let's talk more about this because there's a lot of nuances there, right? First of all, let me just tell you this. First of all, I don't believe that there is this confrontation you're talking about here, right? You know, you can go to be a staff engineer and only work 8 hours a day. There's no, because you are a staff doesn't mean you have to work more, right? You know, I don't think you have to sit through endless meetings, right? Just because you're a staff engineer. I don't think that idea that because you grew beyond senior, right? You're going to have to be on endless meetings, this kind of thing. That's not true. That's not true at all, right? So that depends on what you're going to do. That depends on how you position yourself. That depends on how you build that beyond senior career. You know, remember, guys, this is more autonomy. Autonomy is the power to decide what you're going to do. So if you think that participating in a meeting is important, you will participate in a meeting because that's important for you, right? But if you think that meeting is not important, you're not going to participate in that meeting, right? So autonomy is the ability to decide what you to do what you want to do, right? You know, so you, and of course with responsibility, right? So that's something you have to do, right? Okay. So let me talk about here a little things that Frankie mentioned in the beginning, because I think that's important, right? So the staff level operates more in the gray area. Yes. Everything here, it's gray area. I want you to understand. That's why many people stay senior, because everything here is gray area. Why? Because of autonomy. Autonomy, you decide what you're going to do. And so everything's gray area. You know, that's why those positions are so hard, because there's no clear message. There's no clear guidance. There's no one telling you what to do. What I hear a lot, I was just talking with 2 Java champions just maybe a couple of months ago, right? When we were in DevNext in the US. I was talking with 2 Java champions, right? And, you know, Trisha G and Jean Borvoraski, right? And both of them said the same thing. I have no boss, and I'm not boss of anyone. Let this sink in a little bit. I have no boss, and I'm not a boss of anyone, right? 2 very important things. That means gray area, right? No one tells me what to do. So I do what needs to be done for the company, right? So yes, you are expected to drive initiatives, right? You know, now the whole thing about authority is not authority, it's influence. You have to build your influence, right? Otherwise, nothing happens, okay? So you have to do that. And so, and then Frank says, success becomes less about technical skill and more about influence and communication. That's very, very true. Yes, because now you have to influence people. Now, the technical skill is still important, because without technical skill, you know what happens without technical skill? You have no influence, because people don't trust you if you don't have the technical skill. So it's not true, Frankie, that success is less about technical skill, because if you don't have the technical skill, then you have no influence. Because remember, you are influencing technical people, right? So you have to have the technical skill. Otherwise, they don't trust you. They don't believe in you. They don't think that you're doing this right. Make sense? So very, very important that you do this, right? So one thing I want to do really quick here is that I want to give you guys a gift before my time runs out. So I'm going to go right now to careermasterplan.dev. You know, you guys can do the same thing. Careermasterplan.dev. Can I write here in the chat? Yes. Okay. So, get the first chapter of my book for free, right? Okay. Let's see if that works. All right. Hopefully you guys can see that in the chat, but I'm also going to share. Oh, this comment has failed to post, right? Okay. So that did not work. All right. So if someone I'll put it here in the private chat. If someone right there can put this URL here on the chat for everyone to see, that would be great. Okay. Thank you, Zolak. All right. Awesome. So, but one thing I can do is that I can come here and I can share, share screen. I can share, this here so everyone can see that. All right. So if you guys go to this page here, right? Careermasterplan.dev. If you come here, you're going to get the first chapter of my book for free, right? So that's my book here. The Developer Career Master Plan can actually, can you guys see this? Oops, where is it? All right, so can you, come on, where is I disappeared. All right, here. Okay, you guys can see this. Okay, cool. So that's my book, Developer Career Master Plan. I wrote with Heather Vancura, the head of the JCP, right? And everything here, this book talks about the 15 steps for you to grow beyond senior, right? So if you want to grow beyond senior, this book tells you everything. I have a mentee of mine that she told me the other day, Bruno, I don't usually read books to the end, but your book I read to the end because there's so much great information. So if you want to do that, you go here and you get the first chapter for free. What's going to happen when you do this? 1, you're going to get the first chapter for free. Okay. 2, you're going to get a series of emails with the best parts of the other chapters, right? So I'll send that to you. And 3, you're gonna get an email from me with the book. So that means if there's any question that I was not able to answer here, just reply to me and I'll help you out. Okay, so that's a good thing. Now, okay, so let me go here and a little bit more here. Okay, why is CTO independent path, right? Looks like a company path. No, Andre, CTO is an entrepreneur path, right? Yes, CTO could be a path, a company path if it is that's a VP level, right? It's a CTO, it's a VP level. It's if you are working in a big company. If you are an entrepreneur path, that's a startup, right? So you're CTO of a startup, okay? Okay. The mails from Golds. I don't know what's okay, Bruno. I'm not sure. It's yes. The email I'm sending to you is Gold, right? I agree with you, right? Oh, the email is from Bruno is Gold. Thanks, Bruno. Okay, so Bruno Souza. I'm Bruno Souza. He's Bruno Souza. Thanks a lot, man. So yeah, so the email is from Bruno Gold. Thanks a lot. It's very good. Okay, what else? Let me talk about here. There's one thing I wanted to come back here. All right, so so Frankie said you end up drained and under-supported. Guys, autonomy. The name of the game is autonomy. You say that Frankie says that balancing tech, people, and delivery at once. If your company lacks a healthy engineering culture, you may end up draining and under-supported. If that's why autonomy is so important. Autonomy is something that you have to fight for. You have to conquer. Autonomy you cannot get, right? So if you are making the decision to get drained, right? If you are making the decision to kill yourself, right? That's your decision. Stop. If you have autonomy, you don't need to kill yourself. You don't need to drain yourself, right? I have an article in my blog that talks about burnout. Burnout is not about being tired. Burnout is about being resented, right? It's about, get drained, not drained because you're tired, drained because you don't see results, right? So very careful. That's why you have to go after autonomy. Otherwise, that doesn't work, right? What else did I see here, right? Politics, slide decks, and no code. Again, autonomy. Autonomy, guys. I know a lot of principal engineers, a lot of distinguished engineers that do a lot of coding, right? That's what they want to do. That's what they love to do, right? So you can do that, but you have to know where impact is. Because if all you're doing is writing some tiny little bit of code that has no impact in the company, that you're not doing it right. You're going to lose your autonomy, right? Then the people are going to start calling you to all those meetings because they don't see the value of what you're doing, right? So that's something that you have to work with. All right. I think I mentioned everything here, right? So I'm trying to see if I miss any of the comments, any of the questions, right? Oh, Victor says, I'm an introvert and don't like to waste time on all-day meetings, right? So managed path is not for me. That's great, Victor. You can be a technical manager. That's not a problem. But, of course, managers will have to talk with people all the time. So, being an introvert, it's not a bad reason for you to be a manager or a staff or whatever, right? The best ability of all those things here, the best ability for you to have more impact is not talking, is listening. And introverts are great listeners. So if you're an introvert, man, you could do all those paths. But you're right. If you're a manager, you're going to have to be dealing with people all the time. And maybe that's something you don't want to do. All right. Okay. All right. So thanks, Ihor. So I think I mentioned everything here. Guys, I know I'm out of time here. So if you want to get back here and kind of so we can end this, boundaries are more efficient. Maybe is a way to avoid this, right? So setting boundaries. I don't think that's the most important thing, Bruno, about setting boundaries. The most important thing is about you building autonomy and impact. And because then people are going to see the value of what you're doing, instead of, because people, when people talk boundaries, they say, oh, I'm not going to do it. I'm going to say no. That's boundaries, right? I don't think that's the best way to do this, right? You know, don't learn how to say no. Learn how to say yes, but. That's my quick trip for you guys. Okay, Ola, thanks so much, man. It was amazing to be here with you. Really, really happy. And thanks for the opportunity.
No, thank you. It's such an energizing and motivating talk. Yeah, really. And it's something new, some new format for our event, such an interactive talk, and everyone involved in the chat. That's really great and something new. And I think that it's a great way to wrap up today's event. Like, it's not purely technical or focused on some specific technology, but something general that need for everyone, every engineer, everyone who want to grow and want to find their path. And to be honest, I think that after this event, after this talk, everyone will thinking about that, keep thinking about that, and discussing within the community, because for someone probably someone found how to move forward, someone found answers for their questions, because I think you provided many and many alternative ways what to do with our careers. That's a perfect. Yeah, thanks a lot for that. And
that's perfect.
It was honest, clear, and motivating. Yeah.
Nice. Thanks a lot, Ola. Thanks for everyone. And you know, just end with Frank's comment here, right? Master your craft, show up every day, and think like an owner, right? Very important. Think like an owner, right? Now he says over time, you become a company with one person, right? That's very important, right? That's the whole thing, you know. Independent, entrepreneur. That's the goal, for you to be the owner of your career. So that's very good. Thanks everyone, guys. So very happy to be here. Thanks for a great event, and thanks for the opportunity. Thanks a lot.
Yeah, I appreciate that. Bye.